Hi everybody, thank you for listening. I'm Rob Stoller with my brother David. We're Sharegiver Solutions, and today we're going to begin a series, so to speak, entitled A Day in the Life, where we will just examine the daily life and routine, as much as it can be a routine, of a sharegiver, and in this case David and his partner Barbara. So what's a typical morning for you? If there is a typical morning.
Yeah, well, there's no typical morning, but there's an aspiration for a typical morning. And I'll take you through this morning as an example. So I get up early. I've always been an early riser. My wife has been sleeping through the night, which I think is really a blessing, given that there are so many situations that people with dementia don't sleep through the night, and that makes it that much more difficult for a caregiver.
Clearly.
But Barbara sleeps through the night. I make sure that the points of egress out of our bedroom are well lit, which I didn't know years ago. I didn't know and didn't take care of, and she had a very bad accident back in 2017, which really set her back in some ways permanently. So you learn these things. In this case, it was late, but I get up early, and this morning was a good example. I wake up, look, Barbara's sleeping. I sort of limbo my way out of bed to cause the least disturbance of the covers and make as little noise as possible without screwing up my back. And I'm out of bed. I put on a robe or sweatpants and I go downstairs. I set our Alexa, which many in this listening audience probably have.
And if they don't, probably should or will.
They should. It's a miracle worker for somebody that is a caregiver. And I set it for 7 o'clock. And at 7 o'clock it plays Barbara Cook, which is one of Barbara's favorite singers. And for those of you who don't know Barbara Cook, I would say to your Alexa, play Barbara Cook. They'll play a sampler and you'll see why she's so magical. And I found that this is a great way for Barbara to wake up. She loves the music and it eases her in the day. And I'm usually downstairs, so I go downstairs as soon as I can get out, and I'm reading or doing something. Now, many times Barbara will come downstairs and she will find me in the library, and she can look at me like, who the hell are you? Just really no recognition, and sometimes sort of with some shock or, what's going on. To find you there? To find me there. And generally, if it's very early, if she's gotten up and it's still 5:30 in the morning or 6 even, I'll say, hi honey. Always get up, give her a hug. I think you've heard me say it here, but hugs are amazingly important and valuable.
Why is that, do you think?
I think it's a great question. I think that physical contact, that reassurance, that sense all of a sudden that you belong, you're not abandoned. It's just whatever it is, and those are ancient fears, I think. A hug goes a long way to dispelling those. It's comforting.
I mean, when I see Barbara, I hug her, give her a kiss on the head. She's never once resisted or pushed me away. I'm sure, I'm assuming there are cases where it probably has a different effect, where people are reluctant to be touched and reject a hug. And we'd like to hear from people if in fact that is your experience. We'd like to know I think fortunately that's not the case here, but
Yeah.
we'd certainly like to know if that's the case in any of our listeners' lives.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, Barbara is so responsive to a hug. I mean, you know, I'm a hugger, you're a hugger. We, you know, grew up, although our father wasn't really a hugger.
No, but he didn't resist either.
He didn't resist, especially when he got older. But I don't remember him being a
No, I think that's true.
So we're huggers. And I will find over the course of the day, if Barbara, she could be having a tantrum. She could be furious. And I could say, honey, I need a hug. And I'd hold out my arms and she
Would deliver?
will deliver. So a hug says something powerful. And I think in our society, we need more hugging, just generally.
I think that's true, but we also need more empathy.
Yeah.
We need more compassion.
I think that's part of it. Isn't offering a hug, it's a sign of
Gesture
empathy.
of empathy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So I'll give her a hug and I'll say, honey, it's the middle of the night. You need to go back to bed. Can I bring you back to bed? She will almost always allow me to bring her back to bed.
And the question, I mean, in my mind is, does she realize you're saying it's time to go back to bed? Or is she just knowing I'm being led to do something and I'm going to do it? You know, obviously with Barbara, and I guess it's aphasia,
Of some form.
the language coming out is
Right.
basically indecipherable.
Right.
But I have no idea how much she's processing on the language coming in.
This is the one of the great mysteries. You know, Barbara's form of dementia, whether it's in fact early Alzheimer's, since she got it, you know, started 15 years ago, or it's another form of dementia. It could be frontal temporal dementia, which, among other things, language is really characteristically impaired, both in the comprehension as well as the delivery, and other aspects that are, you know, sound to me like they are characteristic of FTD, as it's called. We don't know if there's comprehension, if there's cognition. We do know that, and you've seen it, and I do, that you can read her emotions, her delivery, the context, and it seems clear enough that there is intention behind her words.
It absolutely seems when she's asking you a question, even though it's not necessarily in English as we know it, that there is a pointed question there.
Right, and you've had the experience. She asks a question, you don't want to say, I don't understand.
Right.
You answer, and you can choose yes, or you can say no, or you can say, I'm not sure.
Well, you can kind of tell whether she's saying, don't you think this is, in which case you say yes. And, but it is, you're trying to read her tone.
Well, especially if you answer yeah, and
Yeah.
she say, why?
Yeah.
Or,
And then
it's the wrong answer.
Right. You know quickly
Exactly.
whether she was looking for agreement, one side or the other.
Yeah. So all right. So let's assume, as was the case this morning, that she goes back to bed.
Yeah.
And a little while longer, and I will put her back to bed. It's always the same way, same side of the bed. Pull the covers back. She'll get in and pull them up to her chin, and she'll close her eyes. And I'll say, I'll bring you coffee. I'll get you up in a half hour and bring you coffee. So is that a routine that is recognizable or comforting to her? I think it is, because, she acquiesces, closes her eyes, and sleeps for a little while longer.
Yeah.
Then I'll come upstairs, I'll hear her, so she's up, I'll bring her a cup of coffee, which is, again, sort of an artifact. She was a coffee maven.
Oh my God.
Nobody liked.
She would reheat the cup
Yeah,
time
like 11
after time.
times. Yeah.
I bought
And
her.
then-
I bought her a coffee reheater once as a gift, and she
Perfect.
loved it.
Perfect. But she'd still let it get cold, and then
Yeah.
she would drink it. So, loves her coffee. In fact, the way I knew she was pregnant all 3 times, we had our 3 daughters, is she didn't want coffee.
Didn't want coffee.
Didn't like the
With
smell.
my wife, first time she refused to drink, everybody knew, oh, she's pregnant.
And that was something stronger than coffee, right?
Oh, I mean a drink.
Hey, drink. Yeah.
If Amy turns down wine, she's pregnant.
Vita veritas, right?
In vino.
Yeah,
In vino veritas.
exactly. So, so she will have her coffee, put on the Today Show, again, sort of comforting to her, especially when she hears bing, bing, bing. You know, that's
good.
a deal for her.
Which, you know, we laugh about it, but familiarity is still, you know, what we seek
Right?
to provide. Familiarity, whether it's music, photos,
Sure.
videos, TV, routine. How, at that point, after you have coffee, then
Yeah, what
where do you
happens?
go?
Yeah. And, you know, it's interesting, we'll get back to routine, but there's another thing that, again, many of our listeners are familiar with, where Barbara will say, I want to go home.
Mm.
You know, especially if we are in a social situation where she's feeling, you know, somehow excluded because she can't participate.
Even if she is home.
Yeah, especially when she's home.
Yeah.
I want to go home. And for a long time I would say, well, you are home. You know, what do you mean?
Yeah, that's probably
And,
not helpful.
no, it's not helpful. Or it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because what she's clearly saying, as I've understood it, is I want to be where I was happy, where I felt.
Or I'm not happy
Yeah,
here, now.
Yeah, when I was home, I liked being home. You know, I want to be there.
Yeah, it seems like home is more of a concept than a place
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. So, and I will, when she will say that, I will say, you know, I'm really happy you're here, you know, and, you know, we love you. And give her a hug. And then she's home. You know, so, but you'll hear that often. And, you know, I come to understand. And so routine is important and meaningful because it is like being home. It's doing things that you've always done that made you happy. A cup of coffee that's hot in your hand is a big deal. And I can see that, you know, that's meaningful. All right, so we get up. Now, first of all, she will have slept, most likely, in the clothes she was wearing the day before. And irrespective of the season, they'll probably be multi-layered because over the course of a day, however Barbara starts out, she will put on more clothes, especially shirts, sweaters, sweatshirts.
There are some creative outfits. Today she had fringe. One of the layers was fringed, which I like.
You saw her morning outfit. It was a sweater under a fringe on top of a...
And you know, I'm guessing that became less of an issue for you.
Totally. Yes. I mean, it used to be, first of all, when she would go to bed, I first had the idea she should wear pajamas. Well, forget about pajamas. Even the pajamas had coffee cups on them. No, pajamas, not interested.
Yeah.
Not interested, frankly, in anything other than I could take her sneakers off because she would get into bed with her sneakers and I would take them off. And at first she was resistant. She'd literally pull her legs up under her to keep me from taking them off. Why is that? I don't know. She was comfortable. The way she was dressed, she was tired, but she really did not want to get undressed.
Well, there's also, again, we're guessing on everything because
Yeah.
it's such a mystery, but it's probably a control issue. She
Yeah.
doesn't want you telling
Yeah,
her what
exactly.
she should wear or not wear.
Exactly. And so to answer your question, early on, I said, this is just one fight. Not only am I not going to win it, but it'll be frustrating.
Yeah.
And why is my idea better than hers?
And
Who cares?
why is it important?
Why is it a big deal? So let her go to bed. Now, in the morning, first of all, again, in my situation, it's better than many from a personal hygiene and toileting situation. She's usually pretty good. She'll still find the bathroom, but there are times she won't. So in my case, I have now persuaded her that something she would regard as panties, which she would want to wear, are Depends panties. And it's made a big difference, you know, so I can feel a little, rest a little easier that, you know, to the extent she has an accident or this or that, you know, it's managed. But, you know, so I'll get up. Usually I like to change, you know, for her to change. If she's not taking a shower. I mean, shower's worth spending a little time on. This is a person that showered every day of her life. Loved a shower. I would always be amazed at how she could stay in the shower so long. What the hell is going on in there? Because I was, you know, 15 seconds and out.
Yeah.
Type. My showers are a little longer, and, you know, hers are problematic. I also thought she should be showering, you know, like every other day or something. No, didn't want to shower. Didn't want to shower at all. And which struck me as so odd, because I thought, shower, it's warm, it's comforting. She always had a routine of rinsing her hair and following her hair down her back with her hands. Wow, I could not get her in the shower. And even now, it's very difficult. There is an aversion somehow. And maybe it's to your word of control, that when she's in a shower, it's like a lack of control. I almost liken it, as it relates to water, to walking along the ocean at night. She would never want to do that. That it was scary to her.
I don't think I want to do that either.
Well, maybe I don't want to either anymore, now that you mention it. But she felt, you know, a little frightened by, you know, being sort of out in the open.
Yeah, exposed.
Exposed. And I think a shower, maybe she feels that.
Yeah.
But she needs to take a shower. So I now have shower days when she is exercising, which is Fridays and Tuesdays. So before. So a trainer comes. Maybe it's because her trainer, and we're fortunate enough to be able to have somebody that comes, and we'll get to that later, working with a trainer. But maybe it's because she's close to Barbara and I want Barbara smelling good, you know. And but
incidentally, sorry to interrupt, but for our listeners, I really implore you to visit the website and use it. It's not as developed as we plan for it to be in the future, but there's a place for you to leave us your name and email, and we'd really love to know if what we're talking about, we believe it's relevant, but if your experience is different, Sharegiving is exactly what its name implies. We want to hear what your experience is, and we want to share that with everybody else, because we're all in it together.
Right. Yeah. So, and I know that this experience I have with the shower is not unique at all.
I'm sure.
I think it's more the rule. So I have the challenge to get Barbara in the shower without making both of us completely nuts.
Yeah.
Which has happened.
And without anybody getting hurt.
Getting hurt. Me especially. So So here's what I do typically. Number one, the reason I do it when Mary is coming and she knows is that you want to be clean. You want to smell good, don't you? When you're working out with Mary, you don't want to smell. You smell right now. You want to smell good. Well, that somehow gets through, it appears. Secondly, when I need Barbara to do something, I don't yell. Yelling is not good. Yelling will cause the immediate opposite reaction from what I want. She'll get angry, and she will yell.
I'm the same way.
And I noticed. You noticed. You were in my room. I had to accept you as a roommate for years.
Don't yell at me. I don't like that.
So I don't yell. You know what I do? I bark. It's not a yell. It's a bark. Barbara, get in now. And it's like, oh, you want me to get in the shower? It like gets through. It's not yelling, which, right? It's a bark.
And
it's
more
like
of an attention grabber.
Startles her.
Yeah.
Doesn't anger her, doesn't put her off. It's like, oh, what? What? I said, let's get in the shower. Doesn't always work, but it works a lot of the time. And it works a lot of the time on anything. You know, when Barbara might be what I would say misbehaving during a day or doing something, especially with a third party. I use the barking technique, and it sort of enables her somehow to disengage. Shower, barking, always. So I get her in the shower. In the shower?
Now, again, we don't know what Barbara's necessarily processing, but if you associate the shower with Mary coming, or with her trainer coming, if you can correlate one with the other, trainer coming, shower time, do we think that is impactful?
We're not sure, but I do think that her, what it associates with is her need to be presentable somehow.
Yeah.
Somehow. And that is very rarely, you know, an inducement for her. She frankly doesn't appear to care how she looks or how she smells or anything, but when I correlate it that way, it seems to make a difference.
Yeah.
Similarly, if we're going on a visit, which again we'll talk about, is you know, less and less meaningful or possible
or frequent.
Yeah,
certainly.
But if we're going to visit family, or we're going to go visit grandkids, or this or that, I will say the same thing. We're going to see your daughter, or see your grandson Eddie, or Mackie. You want to smell good. You want to hug and kiss them, right? And so you want to smell good. So we need to take a shower today, now, and yeah, it gets through. So it's another. So I think there is a sense of her own personal, you know, hygiene is too broad a word, and but you know, I think there's some pride there, and
well,
and she's still a beautiful woman, as you know,
absolutely.
Which is
and I know she still has an ego.
Yeah,
because if you disagree with her, she'll let you know that's not cool, and if you ignore her, she gets upset.
Right, and sometimes she'll say something that's almost sarcastic or funny, and it might be accompanied with a smirk that she knows that was. So yeah, I think I am certain that there is a certain level of cognition that's there. I think it comes and goes.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's the most peculiar opacity that she just is not getting what you are saying or what is happening. But there are other times when
she just may be otherwise involved in her own mind.
Right. So shower, shampoo, rinse, these are all challenges that I have to participate in. She wouldn't do it herself. She will, once she is under the water and the shampoo and she'll be rinsing her hair, then she will repeat that old motion of rinsing sort of luxuriously her hair in the water stream. So she'll still do that.
Yeah.
Get out, hand her a towel, she'll wrap herself in the towel the way she used to. I'd like to get her to brush her teeth. This is, you know, very iffy. So I have a toothbrush if I can find it, because she takes toothbrushes and deposits them all over the house.
Yours too, I assume.
Mine too, but I now have an electric toothbrush that I hide in the closet, and so she can't get it. She would have to, she would have to really be like a, you know, a seal to get through the obstacles that I've created. But, you know, so I try to find a toothbrush, I put toothpaste on it, and put it in her hand, her right hand, left hand, forget it, right hand.
I can't brush my teeth with my left hand.
I know, it's hard, right? It's kind of weird. So, yeah, now that you mention it. She will sometimes brush and put in her mouth, and I'll go up and down, all around, up and down, sort of like a cheerleader. Other times, you could have handed her a hammer and said, brush your teeth, and she doesn't know what you're talking about. Again, I will go just so far and then let it go. Took her to the dentist the other day because, let's face it, her record of toothbrushing is really spotty. Took her to the dentist, which was kind of a trip, but she sat there for him to examine. Well, it also helped. It was our cousin, David.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole other topic that I'm sure we will cover in time.
He said her teeth look good. I was like, okay, all right. So I realized that this is also something, hygiene is important. Not that I'm not going to continue to get her to brush her teeth, but I realized this is not something to lose my mind over. And, you know, so we'll finish. And
I think that is probably, it's got to be the greatest adjustment the sharegiver has to make, is all of the things that you're not going to lose your mind over.
Correct. Yeah, it's the Stoic mindset.
Yeah.
And it's even part of the Stoic mindset is not only in a moment realizing that this is not, you know, this is not worth getting upset. In order to have that mindset, you have to sort of practice it. You have to rehearse. You have to recognize that in any given moment, there's going to be some opposition to what you want, or something even worse. You know, something might happen that could make you really angry, really upsetting. You have to literally rehearse that it's cool. You're not going to get upset.
Yeah.
That's just another challenge that the Stoic gods...
Seems more zen.
Yeah, they're all sitting there wanting to see how you react.
Yeah.
You're not going to give them the satisfaction.
Well, I mean, again, it's such a large facet of the sharegiver approach is caring for yourself.
Yeah.
So if these, you know, interactions and conflicts, they're harming you as well.
Exactly.
So it's self-preservation to let it go.
Yeah, no doubt. It's so incredibly valuable. Of everything that I've learned, it is sort of this self-discipline that is practiced. Like, I'm going to walk downstairs and my favorite piece of sculpture is in pieces. Well, first of all, because that's happened, I now move.
The bear.
The bear. The bear was repaired.
Repair the bear.
Repair the bear, take it off the pedestal that rendered it less stable, and it's much more difficult to be pulled over. But I'm still taking the chance because I weighed the risk versus the pleasure I get of that bear being on my kitchen counter and said, I'm going to chance it. I've fixed it once, I can fix it again.
That's another process I'm sure you go through every day a number of times, is weighing the benefit of enjoying what you've always enjoyed against the possibility of having that destroyed.
Right. So number one, I've put out of the way things that are fragile, that because you know, Barbara has what this, you know, many people in this situation have, which is sort of this agitation that is just constant. It's a psychic motor agitation, as some call it, where she will wander around the house all day.
Right, and the agitation, it doesn't refer to her mood.
Yeah, it's not angry.
It's her activity.
Yeah, her hyperactivity. Yeah. So everything is fair game. To be picked up, to be turned over, to be replaced in a different way, to be moved over there, to be pulled, to be broken, to rip the cover off a book that's sitting there innocently enough.
Now, I will tell our listeners that David's house is adorned with just beautiful, some delicate artifacts and pieces of art and glass and sculpture. So there is a lot at risk, and I know it's a constant debate on leaving beautiful things where they are.
But yeah, it is. But and so yes, things that are really vulnerable. If you look around this third floor, I have a lot of glassware up here and sculpture and hanging things like that that already have been impacted. So I took them out, repaired them, and removed them from the field of battle. Other things give me pleasure, and I want to see them, so I'm going to risk it. I mean, a great example was yesterday. This is yesterday. So I have a sculpture, metal sculpture of a sperm whale, like in the window, which I love. And Moby Dick is a favorite book of mine, which, by the way, Barbara ripped the cover and the first few pages
of the
instructions.
I finally read over the quarantine.
After
one of my
your
activities.
brother's prodding for 30 years.
After my brother, who, you know, turned into Ahab till I read it.
So yes, congratulations, brother.
Thank you very much.
You're now a member of the Ahab Club. I'm very happy to say
that.
So here I have this whale, and it's beautiful. It was once a weather vane. Okay, so I come down, this is yesterday, and I find this little metal bronze flipper, like on the dining room table, like sitting in a saucer that was actually Steuben glass that was supposed to be over there. And I look at it and I say, oh shit, okay, this belongs somewhere. What is this?
Yeah.
What is this? And I analyze it and I walk around and then I go, the whale.
The whale.
And I walk over to the whale. I wish we were downstairs. I could show you the evidence on video. And there is the little slit in the whale. It's the pectoral fin under the whale that Barbara just plucked.
Were you able to reinsert it?
I have it safe. I'm waiting for somebody that can help me because I'm not sure what is the proper adhesive.
Yeah.
But I'm satisfied that it goes
Well,
back.
the greater lesson, and it's hard. I think it's all hard, but it becomes easier, as you say, when you practice it after you've done it. But the greater lesson to me is kind of letting go, not completely, but letting go of your attachment to things.
Exactly. That's what I would say. It's a thing. That's all it is.
It's a thing.
That's all
Ain't nothing but a thing.
Ain't nothing but a thing.
Yeah.
And I recite that.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
So, and you know, but on the other hand, I can be smart about it. That I can take out of harm's way stuff.
Anticipate.
So, yeah, that's a big deal. So anyway, we're downstairs. And I want to make her some breakfast. It used to be a couple of days a week we would go out, like we'd go to the local bakery in Doylestown, get some scones, raisin scones, which you've tried and you actually liked, and you're not a big scones guy, right?
I'm not a scones guy, but that scone you gave me, that was good.
It was good. So, yeah, we get scones. Now, we only do that once a week now, and that's a trip that Barbara enjoys. However, she can no longer come in the store, especially during the pandemic. wearing a mask, you know, in the morning, she might get in there and take it off.
Yeah.
And somebody's going to tell her to put it back on, and or she'll get really close to people, or she may touch something that is, so no, we're not going in the store anymore. And so, well, then what do? I leave her in the car. And as we are saying, she has the motor is running. So I will, in the car.
Not the car.
Not the car.
Barbara's motor.
Barbara's motor. Exactly. In the car, well, actually I do leave the car on because she's belted in her seat, we hope, and I put on the Broadway channel, so it's engaging, and I race through.
By the way, you can have the radio on without the engine being on. I would do that.
You know, I'm not sure how to do that in this Prius. I used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, I think, you know, but then again, that's not my strong point of figuring those things out.
I think I can help you.
So I will go in the store, race through what I want. Now they know, because I would do that and all of a sudden I'd be waiting to pay and somebody'd say, I think your wife is headed towards the highway. So I would, you know, put down what I have and run out and get her. Now, when I come in, they say, we know what you want, so we'll bring it to the car.
Yeah.
And so they do that.
I was thinking that should happen.
Yeah, so we do that. But that trip, at least once a morning, is a good trip.
Does she still like scones?
She still likes scones, loves the scone.
Good.
And even offers me a little piece sometimes.
Nice.
She's eating. But, which is also interesting, right? Sharing.
Of course.
That she has that awareness.
Yeah.
Not always the case. But if I say, Barb, could I have a piece? She'll say, oh, yeah, sure. She'll break off a piece. So these are all things that, you know, we want to encourage, this kind of social behavior. And she likes being in the car, certainly in the morning. I always saw it as a buffer. So, you know, now that it's getting warmer, we can go outside. Certainly during the winter, get in the car. I'd go out early. I would make sure the car is warm, because if it's cold, it would be really unpleasant for her, and she wouldn't necessarily be able to accommodate that. Warm up the car, go for a ride. Like going for a ride, go get a scone. Or we'd stop at McDonald's, you know, get a hot chocolate. Love the hot chocolate. So, you know, her tastes, you know, I think they've been more limited in, you know, she doesn't have the palate now, and she doesn't have the discernment. But at the same time, there are things that she never liked that she doesn't mind. So, but yeah, that ride is a big deal. And I have felt that it's a valuable way of introducing her into the day, rather than just going downstairs and, you know, without anything necessarily to do. Now, obviously, I'll think of things to do. But
you also have said that she enjoys, in the car, looking at herself in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. Mirrors are a whole subject, and I am writing a poem about this right now, as we speak. But, and it is worth analyzing, and certainly a professional, I think, could be interested. When we're in the car, Barbara will pull the visor down and will talk to herself. Will smile. She likes what she sees. She likes that person. I don't think she knows that person is herself. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But she'll have a conversation, and that conversation is as lucid as any conversation she'll have, which is really curious. Same thing in the house, in the bathroom. She'll look in the mirror, and I will hear her talking to herself. And she'll be talking to herself again with, you know, relative coherence.
That's just fascinating to me.
Yeah. It's this somehow neurological mirroring, something is taking place. And You know, it may go back as early as, you know, when you're born and you're imprinting on that face that is smiling at you.
Yeah.
And you're smiling. You know, something's going on there.
Although I did a video for you with pictures of Barbara as a little girl and everybody else when they were little, and you weren't sure she did recognize herself.
Yeah.
And even now, I'm sure you don't really know if she looks at a picture of herself now, whether she realizes it's her. So the mirror phenomenon is really incredible to me.
Correct. Yeah, it still happens all the time. So, but in any event, yeah, the car is a big deal. The riding is a big deal. Being in the car. Many times when we'll be home, I'll get out, I'll go into the house expecting her to follow. You know, she's not following. And I'll wonder, where's Barbara? She's in the car. And she's happy.
Yeah.
She's in the car's off, but she's sitting there. It's like a refuge.
It's comfort.
It's comfort. And she, you know, this is a pretty common experience. And again, I used to get her out of the car. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, let's go in the house. I don't anymore.
Yeah.
She'll get out at a certain point, but she's, you know, seems to be happy.
Well, then you just have to make sure when she does get out,
she
goes this way instead of that way.
Exactly. You keep an eye on her, for sure. But, okay, so we're in, the day starting, and what we will, the first thing that we'll do is take a look. So I have the whiteboard, as you know. On that whiteboard, and sometimes I miss days, but most of the time I'm good. And it wouldn't even matter what it said. But, so it's as much from me too. And on the whiteboard I'll have, you know, today is Thursday, April, whatever, 23rd, 2021.
Now, do you read it with her? Do you look at the words? I know you read it obviously, but do you read it aloud?
I read it aloud. Yeah.
Word by word?
Word by word. Whether she's getting it.
Yeah.
And then I will have listed activities of the day, fewer than I used to, but she's very interested. Whether she's really interested is not clear, but she spends a lot of time. And during the day, she'll go back to that blackboard. And down the right side, I will typically have, for me, again, now this goes back years I've been doing this. Originally, I was more ambitious for the potential, you know,
values, cognitive value.
Yeah, so I would have health, fitness, diet, spiritual, social, intellectual, and project. 7 areas that I wanted to touch every day.
Cover.
One way or another. And I would have them linked to the activities, and, you know, it would be sort of a grid. I think for me, the value in that was thinking that way. Was trying to decide what are those things that, for all of us human beings, you know, make up our experience.
Fill a need.
Right. And what can I do in furtherance of those? And I would actually check them off as I did it. That's still, you know, something that I am aware of, but I've simplified it. So, for example, learning exercises. I think there's great value in those, in this area generally, but for Barbara, you know, it didn't work. You know,
Give an example.
Didn't want to make puzzles, so there was that exercise of matching spatial recognition. No, really not doing a puzzle. With numbers, 1, 2, and 3, you know, I would want to see if she could count. Sometimes she can count. Other times she can't count. I would want her to put them in order. So You know, these are things I was reading about, not really that interested. Identifying iconic figures, people, places. We would go through that exercise, and you know, after a while, she just really wasn't that interested.
Right, I made you a video of pictures of famous people.
Correct. So I would say, as an example, that's one of those activities, intellectual cognition, that there was no, I wasn't getting, well, she wasn't getting the nourishment out of that activity that I hoped.
You know, it reminds me, and you've talked about the fact that she'll yank pages out of books.
Yeah.
She sat down next to me on the couch with a couple of torn out pages, and to all...
Was reading them intently, right?
Absolutely was reading, you know, intently, to all appearances.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And I put that in, I check off a box. There's a plus column. This is an activity that has some meaning for her, of being in a book or reading a page, and she could do it for an hour. And she's not really moving. I started seeing this when she was still reading, but less and less. She would be reading the same page for a long time, even if she was actually reading. So, so the intellectual stimulation is sort of this going through the motions of reading, because books were always hugely important to her. I have now left out the books that she's sort of removed covers from, and she'll pick them up. And so hopefully it preserves my others. But if you went to my bookcase downstairs, I have stacked on top of the books that were in orderly vertical rows, horizontally, books that I'm reading or that are important that are out of her reach. So I don't believe it's for now. For now, you're right. Can get inventive, but they're pretty secure. So I don't need to be aggravated, because those sometimes are more than just things, you know. But so I avoid that. I haven't had that situation in a while, and she is still reading her books. You know, that intellectual stimulation, filling that box, we do it in a couple of other ways. You know, television is a big part of it, and especially if we can find stuff that is interesting, like a video of a musical or a documentary on Leonard Bernstein, which we've seen repeatedly, or things like that, which, you know, again, her engagement is fleeting and it's, you know, off and on, but it's something that she's taken in information.
Well, music in and of itself is a huge area and a fascinating area, and I have witnessed Barbara singing lyrics, actually singing lyrics.
Huge area. So in the car, I'm playing 3 different things. I am playing 60s and 70s, because she knows those songs, and she likes them. I'm playing the Beatles, and she knows, you know, the whole repertoire, and I'm playing the Broadway channel. And that's no question, that is a staple. If it was a food group, that's vegetables right there. And during the day, if either myself or our person that we have here as her companion or caregiver, Christina, I'll say, okay, here's the rotation. I want Broadway channel on, I want the Beatles on, I want the 60s on, and, you know, or I give her a bunch of names, and it's all Alexa. So it's very easy. So she knows, say, Alexa, stop. Alexa, play Joni Mitchell. Joni Mitchell, come on, Barbara will respond. Play the Four Seasons. She'll start dancing. I know she's going to start dancing, or the Beach Boys. If I'm home and I put on the Four Seasons, she is ready to go. I hold out my arms, and we are dancing.
I'm ready too.
It's amazing. It's like just an instant cue.
Well, James Taylor.
James Taylor is definitely in that same rotation. So I have a whole bunch of names written down that And I say to Christina, if you're ever getting really tough, say, let's go listen to James Taylor.
Which, you know, you've spoken about Workarounds. That seems to be a classic workaround.
It is a classic. That's a big workaround. Another workaround, and that's part of it, you're changing the venue that is causing her a problem. You're taking her out of it and taking her to a place that she likes.
And you've also said, and I've seen it, excuse me, when there is an issue and you suggest maybe we do something else, that she's generally agreeable.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, let's go outside. Hey, you want to go outside? Let's go pick some flowers. Well, you know, from direct experience.
Plastic flowers.
Yeah, plastic flowers work because real flowers are at risk.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And so, yeah, I mean, this is the time of season of daffodils. She is murder on daffodils. They're all over the house. But it's okay.
Yeah.
And it's good. It engages her.
Sure.
She is out there. She loves picking flowers, picking plants. If we go visit somebody, I tell them, you know, be careful.
Flowers beware.
Flowers beware.
You know, some people would think flowers are meant to be picked.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's another one you can't lose your mind.
You know, yeah, exactly. So, case in point, 2 days ago, Barbara, she actually wandered off. Very rare, but she wandered across the little canal bridge to our neighbor Susan.
Wow.
Before we caught up with her.
Wow.
And Susan, you know, and so we went and brought her back. Well, we brought her back and she's holding these tulips whole with the bulbs and the dirt from where she pulled them out of the ground in Susan's front porch. So I called Susan, and this gets to another point about network and friends and teaching people.
Sure.
I called Susan and I said, well, thanks for letting me know Barbara was there, and she's returned with some of your tulips, bulbs intact. Can I bring them back over? She said, no, find a pot, put them in, happy for you to have them. I said, great, thank you. Okay, happy story, not end of story. The next day, the tulips were in the house, bulbs still in the pot, but the tulips now on the dining room table in disarray. They're not really in disarray to Barbara.
Yeah.
It all makes sense to her.
And it was something that she enjoyed doing.
She did. In fact, I have to show you later, I have it on my phone, she took daffodils on the black dining room table and laid them out.
Orderly.
Orderly. It looked like, you know, a piece of artwork. I was stunned by it. So, you know, the one thing
should have taken a picture of it.
I did.
Oh, good.
I have it.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you as soon as we're done. You'll be amazed.
I'm sure.
So the thing that I think I also learn about those kind of things is what looks to me like random or chaotic or disordered is not to her. It is, you know, makes sense. And, you know, I look at our bed and I have tablespoons and toothbrushes and pens and daffodils and all this stuff. There's an order to all of it. She's very comfortable. She wouldn't look at it and say, wow, what a mess. You need to clean that up. It makes sense somehow.
So the takeaway, certainly one of them, is the sharegiver is the one that's constantly adjusting.
Yeah.
You're adjusting.
Yeah.
And when you realize that it is orderly to Barbara, and she has enjoyed creating her sense of order and pulling the tulips and arranging the daffodils and all of that, it's very positive stuff for her. And so you have to appreciate it as such.
No doubt. It's her arts and crafts, really.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, every one of them, pens. She has all the pens, and I can never find a pen. So I'm hiding things myself, hoping I can find them where I put it. But, you know, she'll pens, and then she'll take her pen and eat her eggs with it. And I'll very quietly say, no, Bob, use the fork. she'll dip her tulip into my coffee, or I give her the coffee and then goes the flowers.
Couldn't hurt.
Couldn't hurt. So yeah, this is all sort of workaround. Now, the other thing about that morning chart is that now I make sure that we're doing things that I'm really interested in.
Yeah.
So those are some clear areas that I would otherwise be taking time to do, and if I can include her, all the better. Clearly the garden. Now to get her in the garden, because she's, oddly enough, it's right now anyway, not a place she wanders by herself. I would like her to. Maybe we'll get there. But right now I have to provide inducements. They're called hot chocolate. Hot chocolate, or, you know, sandwich. Let's have lunch there. Or let's put this thing in the garden. There's something you love. Let's find a good place.
Do you invite her to go sit in her tea house?
Yeah. And it's her, yeah, and I call it her pavilion.
Yeah.
Barbara's pavilion. And we're putting music in there. And by the way, since Alexa can follow along on the phone, then we're able to do that. So, but when I'm there and she's sitting, and especially if she's enjoying something and went around, then I can do my thing. I can water, I can be weeding, I can be looking at the buds on the trees and tracking. So yeah, that's a clear everyday activity. Another activity is poetry, you know. We'll take time, let's do reading and writing, I'll call it. Should we take some time to do reading and writing? She'll say, yeah. And she'll sit with a book or this or that, and, you know, I'll write for a while. And then we'll have poetry, like we do that every day. Barb, should I read some poems to you? She'll always say yes. She likes it. Mm. And the poetry, the sound of it, is rhythmic, or there's a meter, or there's a rhyme sometimes. Whatever it is, she is catching that.
Yeah.
You know, that is something that part of her brain, which is on one side of the frontal lobe, where language is all garbled, rhythm is not. Mm. Rhythm is still...
Well, she speaks rhythmically and rhymingly.
And rhymingly, and
yeah.
Sometimes staccato,
yeah.
Or speaking in rhyme. Or, as you've seen, she can get very dramatic, especially if you play along. Like she's doing a Shakespearean monologue.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and she's smiling through it. She
right.
knows that it's sort of like a goof
yeah.
almost.
And you have to go with it.
You go with it. You go with it, you laugh with it.
You enjoy it.
So poetry, big deal. Well, I love poetry. I love writing it. I love reading it. So I am ready most days with the poems that, you know, I want to read.
So, you know, I know that over time and over the arc of this disease, your whiteboard's changed.
Right.
And everything, it seems, that used to be kind of a programmed activity is now a workaround.
Yeah.
Like you can plan it until it doesn't work, and then you suggest poetry or the garden or, correct. You know, yeah. a ride.
A ride.
Yeah.
Road trip. Road
yeah.
trip is every day on my, you know, if for example, again, I have Christina here, which is a huge help for me because it enables me to do a lot of things that I want to do. But, you know, then again, I'm back on at 3 or 4 o'clock every day and all weekend. And so I have simplified it. So all the things we do are things that give me a chance to do stuff as well. A road trip. Yeah. Okay, we have a destination. We're going to go. Now, I have to generally want to, we can't go into Costco very easily anymore because it's too hard for barbers.
A chance for disruption.
Chance for disruption. We try to time those things where it's really empty. Same thing with the supermarket. She used to really like going in the supermarket, but it's hard. It's hard keeping the mask. I think when the pandemic is over and hopefully we don't have to wear masks at a certain point, I don't know, because mask wearing is really hard for her.
Yeah.
then it might be easier. Right now, we can't go in those public places because she won't let me.
I walked into the health club yesterday without a mask. I go in, I'm about to say hi to the girl at the desk, and I'm like, oh, sorry. And she's like, yeah, I'm still not conditioned.
Yeah, no.
I don't think any of us are,
No.
really.
No.
It's unnatural.
Yeah, a guy saw me in the supermarket and saw me pivot going back to my car. He goes, mask? And then, yeah.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, all the time.
Well, you know, and I think the obvious thing, and we'll start to wrap up today.
Yeah, so we're
is-
going to leave it at mid-morning right now?
I think so. But, you know, if it rains, if it's raining,
Yeah.
you change your activities.
Yeah.
It seems to be a constant process of workarounds, adjustments, trying to fit in
Yeah.
what's going to work.
I mean, it's interesting, you mentioned raining. So, reading stories, almost like she's a kid. She likes it, for me to read a story. Or read a chapter in a book, whatever it is.
Right.
It can be, you know,
Right.
something technical.
And again, we don't know how much of that is processed, is getting through, or is just listening to your voice, which I'm sure is
Yeah.
comforting to her,
Yep,
part of home.
yep.
It's all kind of home.
Yeah, raining, you know, when you say that, or I need an activity, we get in the car.
Yeah.
And when we're in the car, we're either listening or we take that time to get the kids on the phone. Or mom, or
Yeah.
somebody.
Yeah.
And even if she's not, you know, participating, it's a great chance for me. So I take advantage of that.
Yeah.
But also for her to hear the voice. So you're right. You learn constantly to be adjusting. But the mindset is you are sharing this experience. One way or another, you are growing. You are going to be enlarged through this. You're going to learn, and you're not getting upset. You are not getting upset.
Which,
You're not
you
losing
know,
your cool.
it seems to me, is an absolute benefit to the sharegiver. And you're reducing your own stress.
Yeah.
Things that would typically stress you out, you've conditioned yourself to let them go. And I think that's an extremely valuable lesson for everybody.
Right, it's applying everywhere. No, it sticks. You find yourself much more accepting of stuff.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Well, we've certainly enjoyed ourselves. We hope that this has been interesting and ideally beneficial to our listeners, many of whom are going through this on a daily basis. And we're going to continue with this day in the life theme for as long as it takes to kind of satisfy the understanding of what a day in the life encompasses and what life is about.
Yeah, I think this is, it's useful, and I think we're going to get to a lot of things that are weird and strange occurrences, and you know, how one deals with it. You and I have always talked about a try this feature, you know, of our programming, where there are just countless situations where there's a way to deal with it.
Right, and as you say, something that has been great Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday may not work. You may have to do something else, a workaround to try this.
Yeah.
So I think the message is be flexible, be adaptable, try to let go of things as much as you can.
Right, and hugs work.
Hugs.
Hugs are a big deal.
Hugs are better than drugs.
Hugs are better than drugs.
Although I guess there are times when...
yeah, medications have their place, and that's another thing we can talk about in a non-pharmaceutical way, a behavioral way.
Well, again, please go to the website if you have an opportunity, sharegiversolutions.com, and share with us your experience, because sharing is the way of caring.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
So
Have
long.
a beautiful day, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.